Hi, and welcome to The Future is Here, a series of interviews with business owners from around the world which will look at how they have adapted to business life post-COVID and as they look towards a future which is less COVID impacted than it has been for the last 12 months. Many would agree that the pandemic has simply accelerated evolutionary trends that were already apparent, particularly the digital conversion of many services. Companies that had already implemented a strong digital offering have fared considerably better, whilst others have had to face into very steep learning and transition curves. Now, for those sectors that had limited opportunity to convert, such as restaurants, cafes, corner shops, etc., lockdowns and business restrictions have represented a great challenge to them, particularly also as lockdown conditions varied quite considerably from country to country. While government subsidies have offered important lifelines, many of the business owners actually see the second wave more as one of company closures, job losses and bankruptcies rather than one of infection. There are probably 2 points that I think are key in assessing any business moving forward. First is the move from fixed to variable cost. This will necessitate businesses rethinking their cost base and perhaps the further rise of the gig economy. The second is that human life largely takes place in 5 main areas: home, work or school, retail, eating out, and of course entertainment. Now in the last 12 months, all of these have collapsed into the home. Video conferencing has replaced work, e-commerce has replaced retail, takeaway food, eating in is the new eating out, and of course, streaming services are the primary form of entertainment. So if everyone has been used to living in these 5 main parts of their life at home, how do we convert back? And how does all of this impact on the research, data and analytics sector? Well, I think the digital conversion imperative is self-evident. But how else have companies changed? These are the questions which I've invited a number of business owners from all over the globe to discuss and to share with us. And my very sincere thanks to each and every one of them for taking the time to talk to me. I also took the opportunity, however, to ask them what their advice would be for any company or for any entrepreneur who might still be worried about what the next step should be. And today, I'm delighted to be joined by Joris Huisman, who is currently the CEO of Skim. Welcome, Joris. Thank you very much for joining us today. And Joris, he's seen the business from all sides. He's been part of the Skim business for well over 10 years. He started up the West Coast business in the US, having been in the New York business for some time prior to that. He also started up the Atlanta business in the US and has then moved into the global CEO role over the course of the last 5 years. So Joris, thank you for joining us, and thanks for taking the time to share a few insights and views on how the business is evolving. Just to give, I guess, a little bit of context. Skim, how many countries are you in now? How many people are you, do you have on the workforce globally?
Yeah, we've got about 200 people working at Skim, and they work all around the globe. And that some people work 3 days, some 4, some 5. So it's a mix. Some people are employed by Skim, some people are a partner, they're independent consultants that are partnered to Skim. So yeah, 200-ish around that. And anywhere around the globe, but we have 7 countries in which we have offices. So we have 9 different offices in the US, Costa Rica, Brazil, Singapore, Germany, London, UK, Netherlands. Did I mention Singapore already? Yeah.
Yes. And plans to expand further in the coming years, or have you kind of said no,
Yeah.
we're happy now where we are?
No, we're a global company, and that means that we need to, and in the line of business that we are in, we need to understand the consumers, physicians, patients in the countries that we work. So if a country becomes the amount of work in a country becomes big enough, then we always look into how can we cater better to those needs. So that's how we have grown also. That's why in the early 2000s when Skim went from just being based in Europe, also being based in the US. Later in 2012 and the years after that, expanded on that again. So but I do think that in the years ahead of us, it is a little bit different than in those days because you work digitally and you can easily connect to people. So yeah, having presence in a country is easier because you can partner with someone in a certain country.
Very, very true. And actually, a good segue, an interesting segue, maybe into the meat of the discussion, which really is, COVID-19, the pandemic has impacted on companies in many different ways. Depending clearly on what country they've been in, governments have reacted differently to how they should deal with the pandemic. And certainly, if you stretch across the globe from Asia through to the US, there have been very different philosophies in how to deal with that, and therefore how that has impacted on businesses, if you like, right across the globe. So, thank you for sharing a few views on how you think the business will change or evolve over the coming year. But perhaps, firstly, just to give a little bit of context, how did 2020? What was the business like for Skim in 2020? How did the pandemic affect you? How did the year end up? And were there any nasty surprises, in addition to the COVID, or good surprises, I guess, that you may have benefited from?
Yeah, yeah. I think we need to separate two roles as a company. One, as a company, you're a global citizen, and we are the employer to almost 200 people. And as such, we have a responsibility. So for us, as many other companies did, we have to take our responsibility as a global citizen to keep everything secure. And that meant working from home since March. And over time, indeed, different, especially now, you see certain countries are further ahead of other countries in losing a bit on those restrictions. But that part, I think, is the same for everyone. It's only how do you deal with it. And then as a business, we were in the fortunate situation that our business is already very much digital, so we don't rely so much on in-person interaction with respondents or participants of qualitative research. We were already doing a lot of that in a digital format and easily pivoted to doing everything in a digital format. So that didn't have that much impact, but we also had impact from the uncertainty. Q2 of last year, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of companies of our clients had to deal with the question, okay, what is going to happen to us? Let's put everything on hold. We cannot spend. Some of our clients are in the entertainment industry. Theaters are closed. Restaurants are closed. Yeah, that's and that impacted us as well. And at that point, we said, okay, we know what we do. We know that our way of doing research, our way of generating insights is based on expertise, and we've always put the expertise of understanding consumers, understanding methodology, put front and center. So we said, okay, we're going to survive this, and actually, we think we're going to come out stronger. And that's what we said also. And we were talking about when I talk about us as our business, we were talking about a V-shaped recovery, but actually more even a square root recovery, where you come out higher than you went in. And it's almost like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it's not, because it's because of the hard work of everyone that has connected and stayed connected with our clients and has put the efforts in doing the innovations that we were able to do in a time when there's not as much business. But it's almost self-fulfilling prophecy, and it actually came out. We beat our targets at the end of the year. A lot of our clients are in the situation that they want to find out what new habits are of consumers, of physicians, of patients. And we're very happy that they come to us and they trust us to help them with that. So as such, as a business, at the end of 2020, we were looking back at a strong result. Terrible year, but it's a strong result.
And had you expected that? I mean, was there a point in the year that something happened where you said, despite all of the issues,
Yeah,
this is going to end
yeah.
up being a better year than we had anticipated?
Yeah, and I'm sounding very confident and maybe almost arrogant in that, but which is not my intention. But we actually did. We sat down together with Karen, the other managing director of Skim, and we had conversations very frequently in April with all the business leaders, and we came to the conclusions what we do is what people need. People need the guidance to make decisions for their business based on confidence and based on trust. And we said, okay, we had we do every, normally it's every 6 weeks or every 8 weeks, we do like a all hands meeting. At that time, April, May last year, we did that a bit more frequently. And one of those we said, everybody is 100% secure of their job at Skim. Nobody has to be concerned about their future because what we do is what people need. And that's why I said that self-fulfilling prophecy might be, it might be part of the self-fulfilling prophecy, but it actually already in June and July, we started to outperform the targets that we have for the month. And at the end of the year, we were able to share more profit than expected with everyone.
Fantastic. So how did you end up the year last year?
The year, because you stop counting at the end of the year, but it kind of continues, of course, in Q1. But we're outperforming the targets by more than 10%, and that keeps on going. And that's something that for us, we're very happy that that's the case, and that we can help our clients that way. We also see that something that is triggered, of course, it's partially is triggered by this pandemic of reorientation.
Yes.
Do we understand our customer journeys well enough? What do we need to do to actually get more net revenue out of the products that we have?
So interesting point, because I mean, looking now, we're in 2021, we're looking towards a horizon that is perhaps maybe not, as I said, COVID free, but maybe less COVID impacted than it has been in the past. How have there been other adaptations that your business has put into place? I mean, for example, many would argue now that costs need to be made much more variable, so that businesses have less fixed cost, and that much more moves into the variable sector. Is this true for Skim? On things like, I don't know, office space, travel, etc., etc.
Yeah. Um, it's true for us that it's the effect of what's happening today, but it's not our optimization target or our goal target to say, okay, we need to variabilize our cost. We need to cut back on office spending because we have to report to the market about our share earnings or those kind of things. We have a little bit longer horizon on that. And as such, we already had that. We were already, I was mentioning 9 offices. 4 out of those offices are based in a WeWork environment. And that's something that not because we want to move out and in as we can, but because we can scale. And because when I started in 2012, I joined the WeWork, the WeWork office there, and we had our unit, and it enabled us to scale faster than when you had, and all the hassle of having to take care of an office. So that part of flexibility was already there. That's part of our philosophy. And then the other part, the flexibility, is also that we see flexibility in employment. A lot of people are employed by Skim. A lot of people start their career at Skim, or they take a certain point, a step in their career, and they move on in their career at Skim. But there are also a number of people that are at a certain point in their career that they have seen a lot and that they want to work a number of days a week, but they don't want to have the full kind of full commitment of a job. So some of our people are working 24 hours or 30 or even flexible between 24 and 32 hours, also on a flexible basis. So it's not as a result of the cost implications, the variabilization, to say it that way. But it's actually as a result of our philosophy on how we do business, and we see that you need a lot of flexibility to do business. You need to have that flexibility also in your expertise, bring together more and more expertise to give the valuable insights. So that's where it comes from. But like I said, as a result of what happened, yeah, for us also business travel has dropped, and that has a positive impact on our P&L as well.
You mentioned that, the flexibility in work practices. Um, have you found it challenging or difficult or easy to implement that flexibility across the different countries? Because clearly there are different environments in each of them. Has that been a challenge, or has it been relatively easy for the business to offer that same kind of flexibility which stems from the philosophy in those different countries?
What we had, and I still remember, for me it was Friday the 13th, as if it had happened on Friday the 13th. We sat together, and we made the decision. Okay, we as a global citizen, as a company who takes responsibility, we have to now move faster on our kind of on our yeah working from home, and we just overnight we said, okay, we cannot come together in an office anymore. The risk of spreading a virus is just so big right now. We have to learn how to deal with this. So that over that weekend, it took a lot of resilience of the people, but actually over one night we were remote. So that part, and that's IT wise, that's all possible. Under the situation that there's an external factor, i.e. COVID, it was possible for everyone to move into that practice. We could continue our work. We are set up digital to work on documents together. So that wasn't the hard part. But then the hardest part start, of course, and that is how do you work together completely remote for an extended time. And we also noticed a few interesting things. First of all, we had that flexibility already in our mindset, but we noticed how all of a sudden it was taken to another level. All of a sudden it was possible to do brainstorming while you were at home, and not all together in one place. So we noticed that there's more that we could do, that we were somewhat stuck in old habits. So prior to that Friday the 13th, we're stuck in old habits of relying too much on the physical proximity. At the same time, we also noticed that this flexibility of working from home every day had a very polarized impact. We're doing employee surveys frequently, and in one of them we were also, and yeah, we're basically doing our own tracker, where we're asking about the impact that it had, and this is especially true for the Q2 and Q3 of last year. And we expected it's a 10-point scale. We expected between 4 and 7. A lot of people said, "Wah, I don't like it so much, but it's okay-ish." None of that. It was totally polarized. It was all 1s and 2s, and all 9s and 10s. So in other words, I hate it or I love it. And that's the challenge that we're still facing. That flexibility is not everyone likes that. Some people like to work from home 3, 4, 5 days a week, but the others would like to be in the office day and night because you're close to other people and you're missing that social interaction. And that's something that we noticed, and we identified that as one of our main challenges for this year and the years to come, is that you have a very polarized experience. And these people, under the COVID, the external factor of COVID, people can work together because you have to do it this way. But what if it's not there? What did we actually do in the past? We were relying a lot on that in-person interaction in the office, while underlying there is a very polarized perception of that. So that's, I think, something that we saw as an insight. And another big insight is that when we are more digital, we get far more collaboration that we didn't expect. So in the summer, at the end of the summer, we did an online hackathon. Hackathon is something that we always do in person. You come together with a group of people and you take 2 days and you completely, preferably somewhere in a nice location on the beach or something like that. But you focus completely on just a few things that you want to get done, mostly innovation. Yeah, we were not able to do it anymore, and now we did it in a digital format. And in 3 days, there were so many ideas that were either created or taken the next step, but also we saw so many different interactions from teams and locations around the world that we never expected that, and that carried on afterwards. So that collaboration carried on afterwards. So that's another thing that we noticed and we learned is that being digital, working digital, digital first, that enables a collaboration that was not there in the past. So yeah, I might sound very optimistic, and that's because I see a lot of opportunities, but I also have to be realistic about the challenges of having to form our new habits and having quite polarized ideas about how we prefer to work.
And so is that going to change the way that you currently or what you used to offer, all of your co-workers in terms of time in the office and time at home? Is that balance going to shift? Is that something now that becomes part of the new flexible DNA of Skim, or how are you going
Yeah,
to build that in moving forward?
yeah, yeah. We took yeah, we made a serious effort to design our new workspace, and actually I'm talking a lot about our internal interactions, but this also goes very much to the client interaction. Of course, we do not travel anymore now for presentations, and we do presentations online. We do workshops using tools that are there with virtual brainstorming, those kind of things. So both for the internal collaboration and also for the collaboration with our clients, I foresee that we're going to remain more digital than we were in the past. At the same time, we need to leverage the ability to meet with each other because we're all humans, and we're not made for this camera, and that's not what we're made for. So we need to also recognize the fact that we can benefit from the in-person interaction. So that's the new. We took a lot of effort, and this being rolled out as we speak in the organization to make people aware of the fact that digital first is what we call it. Actually, we call it our way of working, the neo kind of new reinvented way of working. While it's digital first, it also has a strong in-person component. So that's indeed what we're going to do in the coming months. That's going to be rolled out, and I expect that we're able to form new habits that are better and more enjoyable for everyone, more enjoyable and better than the pre-COVID, and surely than the COVID era.
And again, just to clarify that proposition and the acceptance of the new ways of working, that has not found any different response or reaction from the different countries around the world. Has it been consistent throughout the different regions and cultures?
What we've seen actually, because we're not in there yet, we're still in this time that we're all adhering to policies, regulations that are forced on us because
Hmm.
we as global citizens have to make sure that we get this virus under control. So I can't completely answer your question, but what we've noticed is there's definitely different types of concerns, and also we've noticed, and we're trying to address all of those concerns. And the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So we'll have to do this again in maybe 6 months from now to actually see whether it has turned out. I'm very confident it's going to work, and also, and that's where the differences across regions comes in. Also, because we are in certain regions, able to do more than in others. So we while Singapore is a little bit of a bubble situation, within Singapore, there's far more freedom. There's not as much freedom to travel, of course, but within Singapore, there's more freedom than, for example, we have currently in London. But things are going to move fast in the coming months, and we see that the number of people within our company, yeah, just that, of course, I used to read the news as well, but also within our company, we see in the US more and more people have taken the vaccine, and that still doesn't get us in a unrestricted world because we still live with the restrictions, but it gets us closer to that. So it makes that we can start making plans. We're talking about somewhere in maybe end of Q3, Q4, that an in-person event would be possible again. And that's something that, because it's different across the globe, in which, yeah, how much restrictions we have, we also are using those that are ahead of us to pilot the way of working and learn from that. And it's an iterative process in which we keep on improving. But a very important thing is that it's all based on what we truly believe in, on the values that we have, and that's also what the people that work at our company also believe in, because it's one of the most important connecting tissues. So that's, I expect in 6 months from now that I can say that it has been a successful rollout and we have formed this new habit, which leads to everybody being more happy in how we do it. But I can't say that yet.
Well, fantastic, and maybe I can come and talk to you in those months and see how it's gone, and perhaps learn a few more, or take a few more learnings from the experience. Um, Joris, you've been quite clear in saying that you moved to a digital platform, long before COVID, if you like, accelerated the need for that change amongst certain companies. You were probably then in a slightly different position to see the change in client demands and in client expectations, or how did you see them? Did you see there being a need for a different kind of solution, for different kinds of information? For how did you see the evolution in the client demands over the last number of months and in the coming months, I guess?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, it's the need to understand new habits, and I was already speaking to that a little bit, and that's what's driving most of our clients' requests nowadays. The reality is that if you compare today with 2019, in 2019, some of the work we were doing was part of a more routine checking the box, uh, uh, yeah, making sure that we were doing our due diligence. Nowadays, not only the insights professionals that we work with, but their stakeholders are so much more invested in, okay, what is consumer behavior going to be like? How are physicians going to work with telehealth, and what is that impact on my product? So that's first and foremost the yeah. There's so much more focus on that, on those habits and understanding them better. So the other side is that another dynamic, and here's where I can't get around the cliche of the pandemic accelerating certain trends that were already there. But also for us, that means a lot more is digital in terms of what our clients want to know about. So a lot of the research that we do is nowadays about the journey across digital platforms, but also the brick and mortar platforms that people interact with their brand. But that digital demand or question around digital has become bigger. And also for the way what we do is the digital, there's so much more available. And that's another ongoing trend. We talked about that before in the past as well, is that data-driven decision making is also taking, and that's one that I expect, especially for the coming years, is going to continue to be accelerated. that companies have more and more data. They are in the ability to integrate or to triangulate or to integrate data with each other. I think that's one of the most important trends for us that we've seen this year emerging or accelerating, and something that in the coming years we are putting a lot of effort in accelerating there. And that brings me to the platforms that you were also asking about, because data doesn't live in a box. Data is on a server, and to access data, you want to and dashboards or other types of data exchange platforms. That is something that is also going to be maybe more. I see it more as the infrastructure to our insights. But that infrastructure is very important, and that's something I think as an industry in the coming years we're going to be we're going to learn a lot how client agencies, tech parties, how that is going to work together, how we are going to work together in making data available on the consumer privacy side. We have GDPR and other regulations that focuses on that, but on the business side, on the enterprise side, clients own their data. Well, not the consumer's data, but their own data. They own it. But how do they exchange it, and who did they work with, and how do they work with the best companies or the best experts at a certain point to get their insights out of that. That's a change or a dynamic that I foresee in the coming years to be very important.
Now, in fairness, the point about platforms, I was saying almost slightly tongue in cheek, because if you remember going back 10 years, I think we had 10 years of the year of the mobile. Each year was the year of the mobile, and I'm hoping that we won't have another 10 years of this is the year of the platform. But I do think that there are demands that certainly would warrant, I think, an increased interest and perhaps an investment in the kinds of platforms that you refer to enable and to facilitate access across different data types.
Yeah, but
Um,
what is very important to realize here, and that's also why I said as an industry, um, this is about infrastructure, and in countries, infrastructure is mostly regulated by the state, because if that's not regulated by the state or the country or government, then privatization leads to wrong incentives. And that's this is something, if we talk about platforms, we talk about data, said clients own their own data, and you can make them accessible, and you can aggregate. But are we going to an area where there's like an oligopoly of platforms, or is there going to be an industry standard where it's going to be a level playing field for companies to provide their added value on that data? But now I'm getting a little bit too much ahead of, and maybe almost philosophic, but I think it's something that as an industry we have, other than mobile, because mobile is the infrastructure still owned by the infrastructure still owned by the countries. But in this case, it's about that infrastructure. How is that going to be owned?
well, a good question, and maybe one we can take a little bit more time to explore over the course of the coming 12 months, and see indeed how that involves, because you make a very valid point about who owns it and who is responsible for it in many ways. Um, the new horizon, if it is, as I said, not maybe COVID free, but less COVID impacted. um, I guess COVID caught us a little bit out of surprise. What do you see as the next kind of big challenge, yours, that's coming on the horizon? Is there anything that you see that you feel is the next snowball coming down the hill that may turn into an avalanche, or what do you see as the things we ought to perhaps be looking out for?
The near future, in the near future, I am very curious, and I think that one of the bigger challenges is settling into our new habits. And that's something that I've said it before about the workplace. Under COVID, we have the restrictions, and we could all adhere to those restrictions. We accepted the fact because it's external, but we have new habits that we're going to settle in. That's one for the workplace, but also for the way that we do business together in our industry. So we talk about new habits. I am talking about also has been a little bit more in the background, but maybe now we could also be a little bit more responsible in doing business. I hope for that, and not only hope, we have internally and as a company, we have set a clear and ambitious goal for 2025 to be more responsible. But yeah, under the umbrella of habits, I hope it's not only going to be the short-term results that are going to be dominating, but also aspire that the longer-term, more global citizen type of responsibilities are going to win in their importance.
And I think, again, it's a very interesting point, and I'm sure there will be differences of view between privately owned companies and publicly owned companies, and the extent to which they can make those promises and work towards them, I guess, over the coming years and months. Um, Joris, you've run the gamut, as I said earlier on. You've been the startup of a new business on the west coast of the US to now running an organization which covers multiple countries and cultures. There may be many people out there who have not had the benefit of a similar experience, who've come through, if you like, the pandemic, and are wondering what their next step might be. To any of those aspiring entrepreneurs or business owners, what would be your one bit of advice to them, having come through these extraordinary times?
Yeah, I think these extraordinary times only show us one thing, and that is lean in, and lean into the change. That if I look back at the second quarter of last year, I was mentioning the self-fulfilling prophecy. We, as the management of Skim, did not have any doubts on. Also helped by the fact that we're privately owned, okay, but we had no doubts about our future, and we're convinced of what we do, and we believe in what we offer. So based on that, we could lean into the future, even hire more people. But that's something that on a smaller scale, if you're a startup, if you have 3, 4, 5 people, you carry this immense responsibility of bringing that further. You're not only doing it for yourself, but you're also doing it for those people that have put their faith in you to make it happen. And you started something, and that is still that belief is still there. And when someone throws you a curveball like the COVID was thrown at us in the world, lean into that change. Lean in, look at what it means, but and accept certain risks. You can't eliminate risks, but so make sure that you understand your risks, and then lean into it, because as a smaller starting company, you're more agile, more flexible than any other large company out there, and it's a world in which we people are trusted based on what they offer. Not reputation matters, and but more and more, if you compare to years to the 90s maybe, more than that time, innovation, new ideas are picked up by larger companies, and therefore I think as a starting company or as a smaller entrepreneur, lean into that change.
Fantastic. Well, Joris, thank you. Thank you so much for spending the time today and just talking about some of your experiences during the past 12 months, and hopefully, the next 12 or 24 months will be just as successful for you as the last. And again, thanks for sharing your experiences with us over that time.
Happy to do that, and I hope that in 6 months from now I can indeed say that we have found our new habits, and that has been that everybody is also the world's doing better in 6 months from now. I'm very sure about that, but that we're also feeling more comfortable in the new habits that we have found.
Well, and hopefully we can meet in person and raise a glass to everyone's success in the intervening time. To those of you watching, thanks for joining us. If you do have any further questions or comments or suggestions on our chat today, please don't hesitate to send them to the email address which you'll see on the screen below. I'll be happy to collate them, and Joris and I can discuss them and send them on to you as appropriate. So again, thanks everyone for joining us today, and see you next time. Thanks again, Joris.